getting sick of all this winning. You know?
I don't feel well.
Yeah, I'm just hanging out with too many losers. I don't know. Doing a lot of winning lately.
Interesting.
This is Byron Lazine and Nicole White, and you are tuned in to episode 33 of The Real Word. Word is up.
Word. It's like it's virtually impossible to not say that, I feel like.
Say word is up?
We're just like
word
word
is
up.
born.
We're like, word up.
The first topic,
G.
before we get into our 3 rackets, the main topic, we're not going to update Zillow. We're going to do that in one of the rackets
Oh, yeah.
to make Nicole happy.
Thank you.
And we're going to shift gears a little bit. We're just going to really propose a question, give you our maybe 2 cents.
We are?
A little bit. I'll provide a little bit of color
It's sort of like
it's
gonna be a 2-part main topic because we're sort of asking the question this week, and then Byron and I really decided that we needed to do a little bit more homework on this because it's certainly, if you're in the industry and you follow up on a lot of the topics that are, typical to come up in real estate, this is something that's come up a lot over the last 2 years. You may not, like for me, I'm not following this particular case closely. Right.
But what caught my attention was today on Inman, Bernice Ross wrote the article, How a California Minimum Wage Court Decision Could Impact Real Estate. The Dynamex minimum wage decision worries me more now than ever.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of different, if you go back to her April post on Inman, there's a ton of information out there and court cases going all the way back to the 90s between, real estate and independent contractor status. And what Nicole and I would like to know and propose to anyone listening or watching this show is, do you think, as a real estate agent, if you are an agent, if you are a salesperson, do you believe that you are an independent contractor? That's it.
That's it, yeah.
And so before, and I think next week when we come back, we'll dig a bit on.
We have a lot of digging
because
there's a lot of articles on it. A lot of people have sort of given their opinions. A lot of people have actually dumbed it down too, which I can appreciate because
we'll link that up.
There's so many things like that you don't even think about, and that we need to start thinking about, and. There's actually some wonderful pros to this if it actually really does happen. Obviously, a tremendous amount of cons, especially I feel like more of the cons are for like the real estate companies, like the big.
Of course, the cons are not. I'm not thinking about this as a con.
No.
But here's what's interesting, and this may help you answer the question that we proposed is, do you feel like you're truly an independent contractor? And a lot of these states, California being one of them, uses this ABC test. And under the ABC test, and this is what you're talking about, how it spells it out clearly, we'll link up both the Inman article and the one that Nicole's referring to, which was Notorious Rob.
R.O.B.
Notorious R.O.B.
Notorious R.O.B. He dumbed it down for me. Thank you, Rob.
Under the ABC test, a worker must satisfy all 3 of the following factors to be an independent contractor, regardless of any employment arrangement or agreement, rather, they may sign.
You want me to read?
So,
you're good?
Yeah, I can't read. Everybody that's been following the show for 33 episodes should know that. I can't read.
Well, that's why they're probably like, why is he still in charge of reading?
Right, so like our brokerage has us clearly sign this piece of paper that says I am an independent contractor, right?
Right.
Now, this is saying to satisfy the ABC test, it doesn't matter what you signed. You have to satisfy these 3. Number 1, the worker is free from control and direction of hiring entity in connection with work performance of the work, both under contract for performance and the work.
Right.
Also, number 2.
This is the biggest one.
That didn't make any sense to me. But number 2, the worker performs work that is outside the course of the hiring entity's business. Think about that.
Right.
If you're working for a real estate brokerage, Are they paying you 100% of your checks? Are you doing work outside of that?
Well, right.
That one's interesting.
It's very.
Number 3, the worker is customarily engaged in an independently established trade, occupation, or business.
I guess the 2 and 3 sort of run into each other.
So just think about it.
Yeah.
And then we're going to recap this next week.
Be confused, because I was a little confused. You started going through the A, B, and C's, and I was a little slow on the uptake, but that's why we decided to propose the question, and then we'll rehash it next week, because there's so much.
And I want to make it
consider.
clear, we're 33 episodes in. Some people at times have been like, oh, you guys didn't do enough research on this topic.
We're trying to do it on this one.
We're giving you the opportunity to chime in first. Give us your opinion. If you truly feel like you're an independent contractor, we're going to give our opinions next week. We're going to dig deeper onto these cases. But the whole point of this show, the real word, is to extend the conversation, right? So we're not going to ever have 100% of the answers on this show. But what we're hoping to do is bring an awareness around all the change that's happening in this industry, and for the good agents and the quality agents and the agents that are truly making a difference to be ahead of that curve, just through conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I love the real word because it makes me read articles that I wouldn't usually read.
And let's get into the Racket. It gets a lot of Zillow information
fun.
that Nicole would never care about.
I always care about Zillow. I just swear that Zillow must have this week given a new vocab word, because when you read this article, you guys should let us know what the vocab word is for this week at Zillow, because this article is like riddled with this vocab word.
We're going to link up the PDF of the shareholder notes from last week, and anybody can get shareholder notes. They're a publicly traded company, so you can go on there and you can get these. This is public information. So we were talking last week about, was Zillow losing money on these typical transactions, right? So basically they get into why they're doing the instant offers, which is some home sellers want to avoid the hassle, the time commitment, the uncertainty of the sales process. We already know that.
Right.
They're willing to pay for convenience, a.k.a. take a discount on the sale of their home to avoid that hassle. Specifically, our net profit. So this is right from Zillow. Specifically, our net profit is the difference between what we pay to buy the house, including transaction costs, and what we sell the house for, less our update costs, agent commissions, other selling costs, and any overhead expenses. We aim for that delta to be positive. So they are looking to make a return.
Well, that would be silly if they didn't.
Even while we are sub-scale. So while they're doing these small test markets, the numbers are small, they're not at scale.
Right.
We expect the delta will rise to larger levels as we grow. In addition, there are ancillary revenue opportunities in our new construction and mortgage marketplaces as we grow larger. Stay tuned for that. I'm not sure what that means.
So they're really trying to get leads. Well, I mean, obviously they're always trying to get leads.
Trying to get leads.
But they're trying to funnel some business over to their new mortgage.
Guys,
venture.
remember, Zillow is designed to generate leads.
Absolutely.
So yes, they're trying to get leads.
Yeah.
We anticipate that over time, our equity commitment for a home purchase will decrease to 20 to 30% of the home value. We anticipate that over time, our equity commitment for a home purchase will decrease to 20 to 30% of the home value, meaning that our return on equity will be improved relative to today as we apply that incremental equity to additional transactions. Finally, with an expected 90 days or fewer turn time on our equity, our overall profitability is further improved as we quickly put our money back to work. So they're always rolling their money back into these deals. Did you get any of that?
So many words. I don't know anyone heard it. All I heard was equity, 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 equity.
Listen, can we get through the rest of this?
It's like sanctions. I feel like you turn on the news and all you hear is sanctions.
Can we get through the rest of this? All right, now they get into stuff that this is where, Zillow, you've lost me a little bit here.
Oh, you're not lost yet?
No. Given the enormity of the U.S. residential market, of course, we get it. It's big. It's 5.5 million annual sales. It's 1.8 trillion in annual sales. What they're saying is...
Oh, this is the racket.
This is a total racket.
Total racket.
What they're saying is the Zillow Instant Offers is going to create 2 transactions growing that big number of total transactions that I just mentioned, growing that from what would have only been 1 to now 2, because Zillow's buying the house and putting it right back on the market. I disagree. I think that's a racket. I think that most of the people that are selling their house at a discount are selling them to who?
Investors.
Right.
So they'll be buying it. But again,
But the investor, now some of them would have held them and rent them.
Potentially.
Or lease them out.
I think it's
But I think a
ballsy to
lot of
say
these
that.
people, I think a lot of the people that are going to be comfortable selling their house on an instant offer
Right.
are people that would have back in the day called the black and yellow sign.
Oh,
we buy homes for cash.
Yeah. Well, but even if they're not, like say the instant offer wasn't there, they would have put it on the open market. Someone would have bought it, fixed it up, and then put it back on the market. Where actually I feel like Zillow is taking away a potential transaction.
I think if it went on the MLS traditionally, maybe if it needed a ton of work,
Right.
then maybe, it would have went back on. But you could have just had a homeowner fix it up.
But my point is
stay there.
it was going to be producing a transaction regardless.
It's just not always a 2-for-1. I think
No.
at times it would have been a 2-for-1.
But this isn't. But Zillow's not. I mean, that's not two. That's not.
It's
two.
always 2. Yeah, they're going to buy and they're going to sell it. That's 2 transactions.
Well, right, but I don't know.
What they're saying is it's not a guarantee that if Zillow doesn't buy it, that you would have gotten the 2 transactions. But it's also not a guarantee that it wouldn't have happened
Exactly
that way.
I
So
think that's a racket.
So I think,
Such a racket.
I mean, and then I guess to their point, maybe it will increase the amount of deals, but there's only going to be so many buyers,
Well, but then right. Well, right. I mean.
right?
But what's the? I guess I just
So-
don't really understand what the benefit of like adding an additional transaction.
More transactions to the marketplace is better for anyone that's involved in the real estate
I
market. As the market
suppose.
grows,
Yeah.
don't suppose that one,
No.
Nicole. That's a racket right there. Jesus Christ.
Well, I think that their main purpose is a racket because again, that house is gonna exchange hands. It's
Their main
the seller
purpose-
wants to sell. Like
Yeah, but-
there's people are gonna be involved in the transaction, whether it's on MLS or it's not. There's gonna be hands on that property.
But remember,
regardless.
Zillow's main purpose, they're mentioning they're going to create more transactions. Their main purpose is to create a frictionless environment
right?
for the consumer
Yeah.
and to make money. That's their main purpose.
Absolutely. I know. I just think that line. Anyway,
So-
I think we spent enough time on Zillow.
We haven't. We're going to continue to talk about Zillow
What's
because
talking about today? I'm
they're,
done.
they're the beast. All right.
Yeah.
Their
Enough
last
equity.
point.
We give them enough equity.
Their last point.
Uh-oh.
They're talking about if 5% of sellers, which I don't think they're going to get to 5% on this instant offer thing, but if 5% of sellers in the marketplace selected this method, that would be 275,000 transactions a year.
Mm-hmm.
And for illustrative purposes at scale, using $250,000 as the typical home value, if they just made $3,500 per transaction
Net. Mm-hmm.
net profit
That would be
per
1
transaction, that would be $1 billion profit opportunity annually, and that probably doesn't even factor in, or of course it doesn't factor in the mortgages
Right. Well, the mortgages are.
and the insurance opportunities that are going to come out of this. So they're not going to lose money.
They're not losing money.
That was a racket, but what I think is also a racket is a little bit of their
It's interesting that this gentleman that responded to you,
their numbers here of capturing 5%
He
of this
didn't
market.
actually really respond to your email. He just
he did.
used quotes. He just took it all out. He
Well,
just took everything
it's
out.
all there. We're gonna link up the PDF. This is notes from their shareholder meeting, so anybody can get it. It's public
Yes,
information.
there it is.
Racket number 2.
Love it.
You love this one?
Love it.
Family becomes the first occupants of a 3D printed home.
Who knew?
Total racket.
Who knew? A racket.
I don't even spend any time on this one.
Oh, you don't wanna?
No, let's.
You have to. I mean,
There's an article. There's a video even of the house.
it's in France. It's a couple in France. It's like 1,000 square foot home.
They had so much of that foam insulation being
So much.
poured into there.
Well, but yeah. Well, right. Yeah. I think it's kind of cool.
You think it was cool?
I think it was kind of fun. Yeah. I mean, let's shake it up, right?
3D printed home.
It took a few hours, like
was
40 hours or 50 hours to print it. But then it took an additional 4 months after that to 54 hours to print it. And then it took, I think it said another like 4 months to then like put
To
like
actually put it
windows
together.
in, doors. I mean, you're still going to need all those essentials.
And it
but
took 20% less money than if they had built this
builder.
home.
watch out, builders. See, a builder should start their own little racket.
The total building cost was around $233,000, and it made it 20% cheaper.
1,000 square feet. I mean, you're still talking about almost $200 a square foot.
$200 a square foot right there.
Yeah, I mean,
that was 1,022 square feet.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a racket to me. People are building stick built right now
for like
at
250.
200.
You think 200?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
Not in every price range,
No.
but certain price points, certain towns, absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
So that's a racket to me. Cute little thing.
Super fun. It's interesting though. It's an interesting little tidbit.
We'll link that up. Here's racket number 3. This one's interesting to me.
Never even heard of it before.
Bump clauses are giving sellers a safety net. This is from Realtor.
I need Mag. I need to know if anybody's actually written a contract with a bump clause in it. It's quite fascinating. I had no idea.
More real estate transactions are reportedly tying in a bump clause to give sellers some assurance that they are receiving the best offer. A bump clause allows sellers to enter into a contract with a buyer.
Yes.
But continue to market the property.
Totally normal.
Find other offers, and then they can bump the other one out.
The original buyer. Love it.
Do you like that?
Love it. Yeah, look, you can bump the original buyer to get them to waive their contingencies or offer more.
So would you do a bump clause?
Like as a buyer's agent?
Yeah.
No. Nope.
As a listing agent, you would?
Of course. Bring it on. I think, though, it also depends on, like, where you are in the transaction. I mean, if you're so far along, like, it's silly to, like, you lose money because you have to carry the house for potentially, like, another whatever so long. But, I mean.
Why would it ever make sense for a buyer to agree to this bump clause? And now, I mean, I was just on vacation, and friends, they bought a house in a different state, and they're like, oh, my gosh, we ended up having to go cash instead of finance. We just kept losing deals, because of our terms. We were making great offers.
Yeah.
They're in a
Where
very
are they, like
competitive,
in Boston?
Yeah, that area.
Yeah.
They're in a very competitive marketplace,
Super
and they
competitive.
had to change their terms.
Yeah, I hear there's lines out front of homes in Boston.
This may, and when you're a buyer and you're in a competitive marketplace, you may say, hey, listen, I'm willing to do the bump clause, to at least be, oh, we'll take this offer,
right.
Well,
but you still have to be the best offer.
Still have to be the best.
You still have to be the best offer with a bump clause.
And then be willing to take the risk to get bumped out.
Because right now they're willing to take the best offer without a bump clause.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, the bump clause, I'm curious if it's happened. It's got to be happening.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, there's an article written about it, but.
We just don't see it a lot in a market like ours in Connecticut where there's not multiple offers on every property.
I'm doing tons of escalation clauses right now. I'm like a huge advocate
there have been
of
more
those.
multiple offers, yeah.
Yeah. But again, the bump.
I think there's strategy on both ways, but this does, to your point, speak to why people probably will need a buyer agent and not just the robot.
Wow. Really?
Unless they just say the
Are you
robot.
saying that?
Hey, what's that bump clause all about, man? Should I do that
Are you
bump?
saying that?
Should I bump that up?
Buyer's agents have value?
If they can explain a bump clause, they might.
Wow, heard it here, folks.
So if you stuck with us all the way to the end, please go back to that main topic. Drop us a comment in whether you're watching this wherever. Do you feel like you're truly an independent contractor? That is our question. We're going to cover this
Or
on
if you're
34.
in California, because this is really sort of happening more in California, I'm curious to see what the agents what's like the temperature in California. What are people saying? Maybe they're not saying anything at all. Maybe you know the media is making it into something larger than it is. But I'm really curious to get some insider trade here.
When this video drops, I'll probably make a post on Lab Coat and just ask, do you feel like you're truly an independent contractor?
Right.
And there's going to be a couple hundred comments on that. That'll probably
be quite interesting to me. I'll read them all.
It'll probably get pretty interesting.
It will be.
So. All right, we'll see you guys next week. Please let us know, are you an independent contractor?